A quick introduction of who we are to anyone that doesn't know. I'll let you go first, Jiggy.
Jiggy Patel, Sales and Marketing Director here at Gold Vision. Some of you may have crossed paths with me already. Came from an implementation role, worked in more of an account management role, now heading up sales and marketing, but also customer success.
And I am Kim Stewart-Thomas. I'm the marketing manager. I've been with Gold Vision for almost 8 years now. And yeah, I have lots of fascinating conversations with Jiggy where she tells me stories of implementations that have happened, and some of them you just wouldn't believe. So we thought it'd be a good idea to jump on this webinar and bring some of those stories to you. Hopefully, bring some valuable lessons on how to boost user adoption for CRM.
We've got Molly that's very kindly helping in the chat. So if anyone has any questions, please just throw those through and we'll tackle them as they come up. But hopefully this session will give you some tips, some ideas, some thoughts on how to improve user engagement and adoption with CRM or with Gold Vision. And as we go through, I'll try and throw in some scenarios that I've come across in my 17 years at Gold Vision, because some of them might be relevant, and yeah, some people may actually understand where I'm coming from.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to start with why. So I'm going to hand over to you, Jiggy, to talk us through this slide. And for those of you who may have attended some of these webinars before, you're going to know I love a poll. So prepare yourselves. I'll be putting polls up throughout to try and just get your insights, and then that might help guide what kind of scenarios that Jiggy's going to run through with us today.
And I guess the key thing here is for people that have attended the webinar, you can probably see that there's either a lack of adoption or engagement with your CRM. How do you know that? Have you surveyed your users? Have you got feedback from your users? If you haven't, then now's a good time to find out why. It's always really easy to think, well, I think it's because of this, or it's just too difficult. Believe me, fear has been a key issue, as well as a lot of those that are on the screen right now. Just to give you some examples, issues with data. You know, after going live with your CRM, it may have been clean, it may not have. You may have gone live a little bit too early, but if you've got records where you've got 2 or 3 duplicate records, your users might be sitting there thinking, I'm not sure which one to update, so I'm not going to update any. So just think about that as a scenario, because they just don't want to potentially do anything wrong. Management buy-in is a key one. If you're not using Gold Vision or your CRM in meetings, weekly, daily, monthly, the team won't see a reason to use it, because potentially no one's actually looking at it or using the data that's there. Too complicated is always a really key factor. But hand in hand with too complicated is I don't really know how to use it and I don't understand it. So obviously training is a key one there. But I would always say survey your users and try and get honesty from them. Don't chastise anyone for not using it, but it's more, how can we make it better?
Yeah, try to get to the bottom of it.
Exactly that. Yeah. You know, the CRM not matching your business processes and your needs is always a really key one. A tool like Gold Vision is highly configurable and really flexible. So there's no need to have words on the screen that don't match your current processes. You know, accounts, being organizations or companies, for instance, just make sure that the fields that you've got are relevant and that the language matches the way that you work. If it doesn't, it's a really quick change. And it's really easy for us to help you with those kind of things. But some of those issues, and sometimes it's all of those issues, when you survey your user base, is something that you find.
Yeah. So just sharing a poll now, I think based on what Jiggy's just ran through and maybe just on your initial instinct, so you probably haven't had an opportunity to survey users in the 5 minutes that Jiggy was just talking there, but what's your instinct? What do you think maybe would be the biggest challenge that your users are facing with adoption, if that is something that you're struggling with? So we'd be interested to see what you think there.
Give you a little scenario. a customer that we implemented a few years ago now. They were really keen on importing a lot of their data from a previous CRM. And of course, we went ahead and did that. And as soon as we trained the sales team were like, it's just too much data. We don't know where to look. The notes had been imported from 5 years ago, and it just didn't make sense because they were having to scroll through and through to find what they needed, and it just wasn't relevant. So sometimes importing everything to the nth degree that you've got isn't that helpful, and it can be quite useful just to keep it really simple and key information.
Yeah, that marries up quite nicely. I can see the most popular answer there is that it's too complicated or cumbersome. So that plays into what you were just saying there, isn't it? Of just looking at how to simplify it as much as possible.
It's really interesting as well, because quite often when we're arranging training for our implementations, there's some nervousness because there may be one or two people who people think are just never going to engage with the CRM because they're so used to their ways. And it's going to take a lot of extra training. And those are the people that they're fearful of. And it's really interesting that those are the people that are fully engaged, because they just get the process from end to end, or they've had that extra help to understand the process. So quite often you do find that the least technical sometimes are the most engaged, but it's worth putting that time into them so that they do understand the full process and get the right training.
That makes sense. So setting out with the end in mind, that was the next kind of discussion point that we wanted to go through.
Yeah, so quite often when you're using a CRM, you don't think about what the objectives, or the users don't understand the objectives behind using it. There have been plenty of situations where we've gone live with a CRM, but the users are told, well, you have to put the data in this system and in this system and in this system. And before you know it, they're updating 3 or 4 with the same information, and there's no integration or linkage between them. Think to yourselves, why are you asking your users to do that? And how can you make it more seamless? So up front, if you are thinking about a refresh project for your CRM, think about, as a business, what are your key objectives? What do you want to get out of the CRM? Is it that you want to streamline your sales and marketing processes? Is it because you want to improve customer service? Think at a really high level, what are those key things? But also think about individual objectives for teams. Are there specific KPIs? Do we want to make sure everyone uses it in their meetings? Try and be quite specific as to those objectives.
Would you say that's the same approach that you'd advise people if they were new to CRM? So obviously we're talking to quite a few of our existing customers here, but if there was someone that was new to CRM or maybe switching from a different CRM, does the advice differ, or is it a similar sort of approach?
It's very similar advice, Kim. CRM can be your end-to-end customer journey. It's not just sales and marketing, but it can be customer service, it can be your project management, literally end-to-end, account management, customer success, covering all bases. For anyone that's new coming into CRM, I'd always say start with your initial objectives and grow from there. Don't try and do too much at once, because again, that can scare your users, and unless they're used to using it day in, day out, it will just be too much.
So almost like a phased approach of what's your most important priority in the first phase, and then the things you maybe want to bring in further down the line.
Absolutely. Break it down chunk by chunk. Make sure your users are used to using the process that you've put in place, and they're seeing efficiency from it, and that it's streamlined. And then build on those processes as time goes on, because as you see the adoption increase, you can start building in more and more of that process. I mean, we're lucky that our whole business runs on Gold Vision, literally from end to end.
Yeah.
But we very much use it for all of our reporting as well. So there's no hiding room.
It's very true. Okey-dokey. So then we were going to talk about how we can make life easier. So you've done the work to get feedback from your users, you've set up your objectives and what you want to achieve with the CRM. So now it's okay, how do we actually make that happen?
And some of the tools that Kim's highlighted on this slide here just help build those efficiencies. I mean, I talked earlier about, asking users to input the same information into 3 systems. We're lucky at Gold Vision, we've got tools that will allow us to integrate, and we quite commonly do integrate with multiple tools so that you can use that data in something like Power BI, or just schedule an import of that data on a daily, hourly, weekly basis if that's what you need from any third-party tools. Obviously, we've got financial integrations. And if there are benefits that you can see, then do get in touch with us, because we have a whole host of integrations. Some talked about here. Things like address lookup, GBG, locate. Address lookup, I couldn't live without. Being able to just type in the name of a company and automatically put the address in. Great.
So it's a time saver, huge time saver, isn't it?
It's huge. For any of you that have sales teams who complain about having to find the address or the location of where your prospects' customers are, this integration directly from Locate is absolutely fantastic. And I'd also say the email validation one is really helpful as well. Google Maps, if you're out on the road and using Gold Vision on your mobile, fantastic. And yeah, if you want to get quicker contracts and quicker agreements and quotes signed quicker, than DocuSign is a really great tool for improving the speed of getting those orders in.
Absolutely. I've just shared a link. Hopefully it's popped up on your screen. So if you did want to learn more about our integrations, at the full offering that we have there, please do click on that and take a look. And as Jiggy said, if there's anything that you want to discuss further, if you've got any questions, then just reach out, and I know the team will be happy to answer any of those questions. But sort of building off beyond just integrations, it's what else can you do to make life easier?
Yeah, so after surveying your users, do think about how you could streamline what you already have. And it could be as simple as there's just too many fields on the screen and no one's using them. Adding things like mandatory fields on screens will make sure that you get the information that you need, maybe for a forecast or to build a pipeline. How can you do that without an estimated close date filled in, or maybe a probability or a value completed? Just think about having fields that are really key to you set as mandatory, so a user can't click save without them. Simplify your screens, automate your screens as well. We, here at Gold Vision, we couldn't live without some of that automation. Just to give you an example, whenever an opportunity is closed in our Gold Vision, a project is automatically created with our whole onboarding process, and that might be 15 activities, which are automatically assigned to different people with staggered due dates. That kind of automation is really quite simple to put in place. It just needs some thinking about. Now, I would always say, don't put automation in without talking to your user base, because again, that can scare people. Do make sure that your users are involved in setting up this configuration, and that you're talking as a team as to how you want to improve the efficiency and streamline the processes that you have. If you think about it simply, if users know that automation is there, but they're not sure what happens and when it happens, they'll be scared to click the save button because they're not sure what's going to happen. I've certainly come across that scenario a few times before, but automation can be a real time saver. But we're happy to, advise. Live dashboards and reporting as a control process, that's a really key one. Try, and if you don't have any dashboards and reports set up, do get in touch with us, because with 3 simple clicks, they can be so easy to set up. But it gives your users a reason to put the data in. Unless you're looking at a sales forecast or pipeline or a customer service ticket queue, for instance, and using it daily, people aren't going to see the benefit of actually making any changes or updating the records that are there. And this goes back to, what are the objectives? What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to improve our close rate? Are we trying to improve the accuracy of our forecast? Spell it out as early as possible from the beginning. And the last one there is arrange personalised training. For those of you who have worked with us, you'll understand that you can have one-to-one training, team training that's specific to your gold vision. We rarely do generic training, and we always try and involve your business process within it. And that can be for one person, it can be for a team of people. But I would say make sure it's specific and make sure that it's, not generic, but key for you as well, and that you've had input with your users as to how that training is delivered.
One of the things we've talked about sort of in the preparation for this webinar was the idea of setting up almost like we've got a product council internally that helps inform how we develop the product, and we were saying it would be kind of a transferable thing of maybe setting up a CRM council within your businesses where you invite users from around the business so that they have an opportunity to kind of voice their opinions. I just wondered if you could expand on that a little bit more of how that could work, or what the benefits of something like that would be.
It's always something I recommend, no matter how big or small you are. Having a group of people who are responsible for the change of the CRM, having a little bit of a committee so that you can stay up to date with new releases that we've had. Hopefully those of you on the webinar, if you're a Gold Vision customer already, are receiving our monthly updates for new features and tips that are coming out. It's something that we're talking about in our customer success calls. So if you have an account manager, they will have been going through some of those new tips and tricks with you. But if you have that Gold Vision committee or super user group, they can be the ones to share that knowledge to the rest of the user base and make sure that everyone is kept up to date and keeps excited about product developments that are happening. More importantly than that, if as a team, as a super user team, you think, well, why doesn't Gold Vision do that? I wonder if it could help. Then that's the perfect team to get in touch and put forward a product idea.
That's it, exactly, because I think we mentioned it on a previous webinar of how we have this product board where customers can submit their ideas or vote on existing ideas and that sort of thing. So yeah, having that kind of super user group, council, whatever you want to call it, that are actively engaged and trying to keep that interest alive in CRM and how it can continually be improved to benefit your business. Because that's the thing as well, your business is naturally going to change over time. Like the way you did things maybe right at the beginning of your conception and using CRM 5-10 years later is possibly going to be quite different. So staying on top of it.
You're absolutely right, Kim, but also that super user group, if you do start with some key processes and want to build those processes, that super user group will help inform on changes as and when they need to. But make sure that not everyone has their fingers in the back end, because that's when it can get messy. That's when all of a sudden at the end of the year, you're like, well, how did we end up with 50 fields on the screen? Because everyone has an input. Just try and keep that control, because that can help keep the users engaged, keep them excited, keep them up to date as well with new features that are coming out.
Absolutely. I wanted to just go back to automation very quickly as well, because as much as you mentioned that automation can be really helpful, you sort of alluded to the fact that not done properly or not approached with the right kind of consideration, it could actually be more harmful than helpful. So I just wondered if you could give a bit of an example, maybe if you've seen a time or an instance with a customer where they've maybe got a bit too over the top with automations and it's actually caused more problems, and how to sort of avoid falling into that same trap.
Yeah, where you can overemphasize automation is where that fear sets in. If, for instance, you're telling people to always click 5 buttons and 20 things will happen afterwards, but they're not quite sure in what sequence they happen, that's when people will just probably not press that button, and you'll wonder why your process isn't working. I would say that's very similar to having too many mandatory fields on the screen. If it's too cumbersome to click the save button because there are 20 mandatory things that I have to complete before I can actually move to the next step, it's going to stop me even doing it in the first place. What I would say is, if you have specific scenarios where you're trying to get people more engaged, come and talk to me. Come and talk to your account manager. Talk to us about your specific requirements or the challenges that you've got, because we can help you through sometimes the best way of getting that engagement. Where automation is really positive, that can help, is where maybe as a team lead or as a manager, you receive emails when things are updated. As an example, as a sales director, I receive emails where we've got high value opportunities that are estimated to close this month come in. And I get an email warning about that, which is great because I know it's been updated and I know someone's on top of it. So that kind of automation can really help. And do think about simple automation like that, which doesn't necessarily get seen by a user, but you can stay up to date.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm just going to share, as I said, I love a poll. I'm going to share another poll. This one, hopefully now that we've kind of gone through some of the ideas of how you could improve things, I'm just curious which is appealing to you guys the most. So what would help your team use CRM more effectively? So the options we've got are things like additional training, cleaning up data, custom dashboards, automation features, or integrations. So not just Power BI and DocuSign, but they're just a couple of examples, integrations with other systems maybe that you're using to just bring everything into one single point of truth. So yeah, so have a little think about that. Pop your answers in there. Will be
just while you're filling that in, while we talk about automation and workflow, in a lot of systems that can be quite a difficult thing. With Gold Vision, all you need is a little bit of training on how to set it up. And that automation ongoing is really easy to keep updated as well.
Yeah.
So for those of you on the call that might not be administrators of Gold Vision or have access to the back end, I would absolutely recommend some training on how to use the admin tool, because a lot of what we're talking about today can be resolved with a little bit of advice from us.
And then it kind of sets them up to maintain that themselves going forward, isn't it? That one bit of training sort of empowers them to know how to manage it themselves going forward. So answers, scores on the doors, data cleanup tools is coming out on top. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, Jiggy. Is that kind of what you were expecting?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And quite often it might be that there's too much data or it's just too old. Again, get in touch with us. I know Kim's going to share a resource after this webinar, which might be quite interesting, because we did think that that could be the case, as well as the resource that we're going to share. If there are, do get in touch with us, because there are things that you can do with regards to cleaning up your data, but there are certainly things that we can do to help as well.
Absolutely. So moving on to our final slide, but not necessarily the end of the session just yet, just a bit of a wrap up. So if you're happy to run us through that, Jiggy.
I am. As we said earlier, start with the end in mind. If your users don't understand the objectives for using the CRM, they're just not going to engage with it. So maybe go back to the beginning and think, what do we as a business, as a management team, as a sales team, as a sales user, what do we want people to get out of the CRM? And think at a high level, is it KPIs? Is it targets? Because all of that we can help with. Certainly a tool like Gold Vision, we can set up targets, we can set up dashboards. It can be that simple truth that everyone goes to, that the whole business looks at, for instance. I've put there, implementing change is normally easier than you think. It really is. With admin access or without admin access, and just some of our advice, making those changes, whether it's on the screen or providing training, it can change from week to week. It can change from day to day. I've implemented a couple of recent projects where literally from one week to the next, we've had everyone engaged. So it really is easier than you think, and it won't take a huge amount of time. Calling us, talking to us, thinking about what you've heard on this webinar today is a starting point, and we're here to help. That super user group is a great idea, and something I recommend to all of my customers. Maybe someone from sales, someone from marketing, someone from customer service. Get a whole group together and think about the end-to-end journey, because it's good to involve everyone. when we do our customer check-ins with our accounts and our account management, realistically, we want more than just one person on that call. We want someone from every team, because we'd like to understand the feedback from every team. It is important to try and get CRM to be the hub, so that you don't have too many different tools with data being an input into various separate ones. We're happy to offer a free optimization session, absolutely, to anyone that's on this call to get you started. And by that, I mean, get in touch with me after the call, send me a LinkedIn connection, contact me via email, or get in touch with your account manager. When I say an optimization session, we'll work with you to look at your gold vision and just give you some really simple and basic advice, and even make some changes there and then, if that's going to help you.
I've just shared another poll. Shock. Just to get an idea of who might be interested in something like that. So yeah, do, like Jiggy said, you can reach out to her directly or your account managers directly, but equally, if you want to just answer on that poll, we can then follow up with you guys afterwards that have said yes, and get that set up. Like
we say, it's a free session. It will give you a chance to just think about some of the things that we've said. Think about your key objectives, but get in touch and we'll just run through some of those key things with you, because getting users excited is the key here, and we'd love to help with that.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. So before we jump into any questions, I'm going to throw up a couple of resources that you guys can click on. So one of them was, Jiggy mentioned, we have a resource all about how to manage your data. So it's an ebook. It's really easy to follow, and it's kind of practical guidance and advice on how to clean up your data, get your data ready if you're just starting out with CRM, or even if it's already in your CRM and you're just trying to wrangle it and get it under control so that it's more helpful and useful to you. So yeah, hopefully a helpful resource just to help you address, even in the first instance, just how to try and get your data under control. And the other thing is, if this is a topic that you want to learn a little bit more about, there is a blog that sort of expands on some of the points that we've talked about in this session. So it's up on the website, but equally, if you want to just open that link now and have it as a bit of reading after the session, I know some people like that. I myself am a big reader, so yeah, it's there if it's helpful. So question time. If you have any questions, please do throw them in the chat. We're going to hang around for a little while after. I've got a couple of questions that I am burning to ask Jiggy as well, just to pick her brain a little bit more, but I want to see if anyone else has any questions first before I steal her.
Has any of the advice given in the webinar been useful? Can anyone understand some of the key pain points that we've talked about, and maybe how to overcome them as well? Any feedback welcome.
Good stuff. Yes.
17 years of implementing CRM systems. I've been through a few customers and a few projects. But yeah, more than happy to give any advice. Do get in touch. Book a time slot with me. Get in touch via email.
That's interesting. So Kim's saying that they have CRM champions.
Perfect.
I like that a lot.
Perfect.
Any other questions, or any is there anything that's particularly struck a chord with you from the session? If not, here we go. We'll reach out for more specific discussion on our barriers. So that's from Mike.
Mike.
No problem. I was going to ask, by all means, please do keep throwing your questions if you have them into the chat. But while we wait, I'm curious, what is the most, in your opinion, of all the reasons that people may not adopt CRM, what do you find is the most common reason for that failure to get on board with CRM?
Quite often it's been a while since they had training and they're scared. They're scared because they don't remember how to do some of the things that maybe they should be doing day to day, or they're not they're only using the things that they need to, rather than the full process. So quite often that's fixed with some very simple training.
Yeah. Lovely. I can see you've got a question. There's a question from Lynn saying, is there a mobile app?
There is, yes. If you are one of our cloud customers and you visit the Gold Vision URL on your phone, it's not an app, but go to the same URL, put in exactly the same username and password, and set it as a bookmark or a shortcut on your phone. You'll be able to use Gold Vision.
It's fully optimized for mobile as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it will be a reduced screen depending on the device that you're using. And obviously you can be logged into your desktop, your phone, your tablet, all at the same time.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got John asking, when starting out with the CRM, any advice on how to ensure our teams don't see this as a way of tracking them or measuring them? That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. And the way that I manage that with my team, as Kim knows, is have individual dashboards that you use in your one-to-ones. But also we use them as a team so that we can see, right, well, what have we achieved this week and how have we achieved it? So yes, set those individual targets, have individual dashboards, but set them up as a team as well. Yes, you want to measure, but more than anything, you want to help people that you can see are struggling. Yeah. So with Gold Vision, what you can do is create charts based on the recent events history where people are creating new items or updating items, but where you can see that a user maybe hasn't created an opportunity for 3 weeks, there could be a problem.
Yeah, it feels more collaborative rather than kind of like Big Brother when it's approached in that way. Yeah, it feels like you're like that team approach as well as because that individual dashboard, like I personally find it really helpful because it helps me keep track of what I'm meant to be doing, but also help kind of does hold me a little bit accountable. So I don't feel like I'm being tracked, but I just feel like I'm able to kind of take charge of my kind of targets and my goals and my KPIs in a collaborative sort of fashion.
So I think, John, just take it back to what are the objectives, and maybe as a team or as a business, what you're trying to achieve, which is why you want to see that forecast or that sales pipeline. But if you're not seeing it day to day from a particular user, it's a way to be able to pick it up with that person.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump back in. I was just curious if there's anything, if people only remember or take away one key thing from this webinar, what would you want that kind of message or key takeaway to be?
For those of you that think that there is a problem with user adoption, talk to your users, survey your users. And it's not about why aren't you using it and banging a stick at them, but it's how can we make this work? What do we need to do as a business to get this right? And just listen to your users. And as a team, as a business, just think about how you can build that efficiency and that productivity and streamline Gold Vision so that it works for you.
Fantastic. Okay, last one from me, and then we'll see if any more drop into the chat. Hopefully, a very simple question. Is it ever too late to fix low adoption?
Sorry, say that again.
I said, is it ever too late to fix the problem?
It's never too late, Kim. No, it's never too late. Whether you've been using Gold Vision, and we do have some customers that we've had for 20 years, whether it's 20 years or whether you've only been using it for 6 months, it doesn't always have to be re-implementation, and it could just be a case of some simple training that takes no more than half an hour, 45 minutes, and that gets the users engaged. I always say to customers that I engage with, if I can be involved in sales meetings, then I'm more than happy to demonstrate Gold Vision, do sessions to optimize it. However I can help, as a sales and marketing director with a lot of best practice advice, I'm here to do what I can.
Fantastic. Okay. I can't see any more questions coming into the chat, so I think that's probably a nice place to wrap it up. Just a bit of housekeeping. We do have another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, I've just shared a link to it there in the chat. It's our two lovely infrastructure guys, Adrian and Ewan, are going to be sharing how they keep Gold Vision secure. And yeah, just showing a little bit of behind the scenes of their processes and what they do to make sure that it stays secure for us and for you.
It's a big topic at the moment.
Big time, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone, for attending. It's been fantastic. Again, do reach out to us, do link in with us, and really look forward to hearing from you all.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Jiggy, for sharing your insights. It's been really an interesting conversation, so I appreciate you jumping on and
love it as always.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.